Care Services of Hingham, Massachusetts sends me a quarterly statement, and it says, please look for any fraud and report it. And check every one, there's no fraud. But then Medicare Part B, which is more run by the corporations, the pharmaceutical companies, sends out a quarterly statement, of which I have one right here, in which they tell me that an over-the-counter cholesterol-reducing medication, 90-day supply, is Humana paid $63.58. That same 90-day supply costs $10 at Walmart. The effect of that is it drives me right into the donut hole real quick. So when Humana gets out of paying anything. So if that isn't fraud, I don't know what it is. And when you examine the back of the statement, it says, oh, if there are any complaints or any problems, here's a number you can call. They never once use the word fraud on their statement.
If you would be willing, and I don't mind if you'd be willing to,
I'll be glad to provide data
to provide me a copy
Certainly.
of it, because I'd be happy to look into it
Thank
and
you.
see if there's something we can try to address.
Right.
And I'll, of course, keep it confidential.
Thank you.
But it doesn't make sense. I mean, look, I think you should have the flexibility. First of all, you can find it cheaper. You should be able to purchase it cheaper from.
In fact, I'm going to get a new prescription from my doctor and specifically take that to Walmart to get that one there.
Yeah. Now, you shouldn't have to be put in that position in the first place.
Right.
So that's the issue that we should try to address. And if I can get a copy of it, if you want to mail it to my office, or I don't know, I'll make a copy here, and I can pay for it if you
I'll
want.
mail it to your own
But
office.
yeah, and I'll address it. Make sure you have your contact information, how you want me to contact you back, and I'll get back to you inside of 30 days and try to see if we can fix that for you. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that the Ways and Means Committee is going to come out with a bipartisan plan that's going to close some loopholes which will increase revenue. I'm referring back now to the debate in Iowa last week when all 8 candidates said that they would reject a 10-to-1 deal when the new super committee comes out. Would you reject a 10-to-1 deal?
Well, a 10-to-1 deal meaning
Well,
$10 of cuts.
10 parts of spending reductions, 1 part of revenue enhancement.
Yeah.
And I understood that all 8 stood up there, held up their hand and said no deal on that. And I'm wondering how you would respond.
I watched most of the debate. I have to admit, I fell asleep in about a 30-minute portion of it.
It's been in the newspaper.
No, I didn't see. No, I'm aware of it. I didn't see it firsthand.
No, I understand.
But I am aware of it. I happened to catch it, a couple days later.
Yeah.
Here's how I answer that question. I don't feel that we need to raise rates, but I do think we can raise revenue. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think we need to have spending reductions.
Why not rates? What's wrong with rates? How do you raise revenue?
Well, I think the way you raise revenue, my personal feeling is that, look, the government gets about $2.2 trillion in revenue today. They're spending about $3.7 trillion. The way I have always tried to manage a small business or a city is to match your expenditure with your revenue. And I don't feel that raising taxes has to be the first option. I think that there are many other options and alternatives before you raise tax rates. Now, what I feel is that it can be regressive to raise taxes on a small business owner, particularly here in New Hampshire, when 75% of our economy is driven here in New Hampshire by small business.
How about General Motors? $50,000. It's only the first dollar over the beginning of the bracket.
What I'd prefer to see is an opportunity where we get, a high percentage of those individuals who are out of work back to work. That in and of itself will reduce expenses on the federal side and increase revenue. But I also think that there's got to be a different environment, legislative environment coming out of Washington that will allow our job creators in our country to utilize the dollars that they have at their fingertips. Now, again, maybe you have a different perspective. I respect that. But I feel that that is a far better way to generate the long-term revenue stream that we need. while we're managing our expenses.
In the
It's the
meantime,
same
we need
thing.
help.
Most small businesses are never even in the bracket
Well, let me-
of which we speak.
Let me try
They
to.
never reach that.
Okay.
And when they do, it's only the first dollar above $250,000 that is taxed at the higher rate. So it is really very misleading when you say, our small businesses need to be protected. They already are. Because 80–90% of them never even have taxable income at the rate we're talking about. So it is really very misleading, and I'm really sick of hearing this misleading stuff.
Someone, yes, did you mention GE?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to ask your comment.
How come GE
Sure.
effectively pays less than zero taxes, actually gets a refund under the laws that we
I'll tell you
have?
exactly why. And this is the problem with the tax code. Over a long period of time, this didn't happen in the last 2 years, this happened over a long period of time, there are
So it wasn't Barack Obama's fault then, was it?
No, I never said it was. I mean, over a long period of time, we have had insertions
Long
into
period
the,
of time. More than 2.5 years, right? More like 15, 20?
it's actually been longer than that. I mean, you've had, look, you know, there have been mistakes made in the past by both parties in terms of expenditures and being, you know, irresponsible about insertions into the tax code.
Lack of compromise right now is pretty irresponsible,
Well,
isn't it?
I can get to that, and let me answer the GE particular issue that you have. The question was, why didn't they why didn't they pay taxes this year? So in the tax code, they took advantage of something that was inserted by members of Congress years ago that allows them to carry forward losses over a 6-year period, which allowed them to pay zero in taxes. That is exactly the example that I used in an op-ed that I wrote in the, it was placed in a number of papers, but certainly in the statewide paper, the Union Leader, and I specifically pointed to that and said that's what has to be eliminated. That's what's unfair about our code on the corporate side. And that's what elicits anger and frustration from people because the tax code is treating different companies differently. I don't think any of us feel that that's fair. And I support the notion of eliminating those inequities in the code, and I specifically identified that one in the op-ed that I wrote a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. So, and there is,
I'll have to reread that one.
I mean, if you'd like, I can mail it to you. If you want to give us your email or your address, and I'll mail the op-ed to you.
You have it. I'll check it.
But that is really part of, I think, you know, the fundamental challenge that we have. And I believe that in a bipartisan way, the House Ways and Means Committee will address those particular loopholes. Yes, sir.